Hey everybody, Brandon Charleston here, coming at you with yet another video on all things AI and automation. In this video, there is not an elephant in the room, there's a llama in the room. And if you don't know, that's a bad dad joke, but basically Meta has released Llama 3, if you haven't heard already. And what it is doing is coming out with some pretty darn good benchmarks against GPT-4 and the latest Cloud 3 model, Opus. And it is setting the bar yet again. So in all this crazy AI, tomorrow there could be another model, but basically Meta has entered the arena as having a pretty darn good model. And even to add to that, it's open source, so it could be self-hosted or even brought onto your local machine and used pretty much now. And so another thing that Meta has recently done too, so if you go to meta.ai, you can just simply go to the website, punch in a prompt, and then you can use it without even having to log in through Facebook or any of that stuff. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. Now that said, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use it in a platform called Clay, where essentially you can call it via its API. Now, Llama 3 doesn't necessarily have a public API, or Meta, I should say, that interacts with Clay, at least that I'm aware of. And so what you need to use is a cloud service where the model lives and then interact with that API to be able to do it. And to add to it, I'm going to show you a platform, or actually it's a hardware company called Groq, which is called GROQ. So this is not GROK, where it's Elon's, Twitter X model. But what you can essentially do is talk with the model, and you can use it within Clay. And right now, they actually have a beta API to where you can use it with a pretty darn good rate limit. I mean, they're doing 30 calls per minute, which is actually not that bad for free, if you really think about it. So what I did was I went to a workflow where I can essentially show you that it's working, and it's working pretty well, and I'm going to continue to test it to see what kind of results that I'm going to have. And the best part is it's free, so why not? You know what I mean? So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. So first and foremost, Groq. Okay, some people have not heard of it, but don't get it confused with GROK, which is on your Twitter account if you have a premium profile. Basically, Groq is a hardware company. So their technology, they've actually been around since, I believe, 2016, and they actually reached out to Elon himself, basically said, hey, we already own this Groq name, right? Please change it. And of course, Elon himself probably says no. So know the difference between Groq with a Q and Groq with a K. So this company is known for making their chips. So they have an AI chip, and basically what it is called an LPU. And so it stands for Language Processing Unit. And the reason they have pushed this technology is because using AI models, they're very heavy when it comes to GPU. GPU is the weakest link. So that's why you see on all the rage about NVIDIA and all these hardware companies really trying to step up their game with GPUs. It's because large language models have to process a lot of tokens, a lot of data in order to process that, right? So with that, I encourage you to check out this website to just get to know about Groq a little bit more. That way you're a little bit more versed on the technologies behind when you actually send that prompt through, what is actually happening on the back end. With that, so you can see this is their chatbot. I mean, you go to groq.com and you can easily see, how fast it does. In fact, it sends it back at the token per second. So let's just sing a song about Taylor Swift. My daughter's a Swiftie, and the new album came out, so it's been all the rage, right? But you can see here, it spit out literally a song within a split second. So it's pretty darn fast. So I've been impressed. I definitely encourage you to play with it. And you can also see here, these are the different LLMs that are open source that I could do. And this was using Llama 3, right? So yeah, check that out. And then you get into Groq Cloud, right? So this is where the LLMs are hosted on the Groq hardware, right? They're currently rolling out their self-serve plans in terms of pay-per-use and enterprise and things like that. So you may want to hop on the bandwagon of sending them a message if you haven't already to see if you're a heavy Clay user like myself, to see about getting a enterprise API, so that way you're not bottlenecked by the token counts or the rate limits, right? And you can see here, I'm not going to click on API keys because, duh, right? But that said, you could just go to, let's see here, go to limits, right? So for free, these are actually not that bad, to be honest. I mean, and the thing is if you go, let's see here. So billing. So you can see free beta. I mean, why not, right? Free is the best price I like to pay, right? And then coming soon is on-demand pay per token, and then they have enterprise. So definitely encourage you. I mean, what's the worst they're going to say? No, right? So you can see here. So definitely, poke around, get yourself familiar with that, and get yourself an API key, right? So moving into the documentation, familiarize yourself with this. You always want to look at the documentation to be familiar with, how to get it implemented into Clay or your NAN or make.com, any sort of workflow that you want to do. These are the different model IDs, right? So right now, Llama, or Meta, I should say, they are working on 3 different models, and usually this is pretty common. So you have a small, a medium, and a large model. And so you can see here, this is usually by the size of it, right? So this is 8 billion, this is 70 billion. That's the parameters at which it's trained, which means the bigger the brain, the more thinking power that it gives, right? And this is really something that you definitely want to make sure you are aware of when you're using large language models. This is across the board. If you're asking an LLM to do a very simple task, like what's 2 plus 2, I mean, not for math purposes, but if it's something you would ask like a 5-year-old to do, you might as well use a small model, right? You don't want to ask a genius to compute something very simple and pay a premium for that. But if you need to ask a professor or somebody who's the genius, like, as far as creative something, then I would definitely use the bigger brain, right? The 70 billion one. And apparently this is their medium model because at least what I've read, that Meta is also training currently an even larger model, which is going to be exciting too because it's exciting times. What can I say, right? So I would definitely stay tuned, subscribe, shameless plug there, on all things when it comes to that kind of stuff. So with that in mind, I have a table here, and essentially what I've done is I've built out, just a list from Apollo, and I'm basically enriching all their information to get an outreach going, right? So you can see I went ahead, and a lot of it's queued because it's still going through 5,000 leads, but it's spitting out a lot of them, and this is just for testing purposes, right? So when you get the rate limits lifted, it's not going to be all that big deal. So based on this, what I said is, based on the input below, output what cloud service they're using, what container they're using, and what front end, back end technology they're using for the website. And I just put the input of whatever they're doing. So I'm doing this for experimental purposes. And then you can see here, it is sending out exactly what I'm asking for, right? And so my purpose here is I'm trying to create an instance where I'm reaching out to the prospects to be able to infer or just say, hey, look, I saw you're using this technology. I want to be able to personalize based on their tech stack. And so but a very simple request, and I use the 70B just to flex a little bit, on that, just to make sure it's actually outputting, and they're both free right now, so why not? So the thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up your API, and obviously it's going to be the post method. You're going to have your API there, and you are going to put your content type, application JSON, authorization bearer, and then right there, it's obviously my token. But what I recommend you do as well, just so you're not running into constant errors, is just look at the API docs, and you definitely want to familiarize yourself on what current plan you're on. And if you're on requests per minute and this is 30, like this one is, then there's going to be a custom rate limit at which you can put in towards the bottom by the run conditions, and just simply plug in 30. That way it's going to respect, and it's always going to be queued versus just running it, going like crazy and having to deal with errors and rerunning it all the time. So So anyway, this is Llama 3 working in Clay. Pretty exciting times. Like we have options now. We could pretty much just select a large language model on Mondays, on Tuesdays, with all the models that are coming out nowadays. But yeah, definitely fun to play around with the models. Of course, reach out if you have any questions about which model to use and why. GPT is obviously the bee's knees and is the most deeply integrated when it comes to clay tables, and using like Claygent and such like that. But Claude is definitely a good one. Cohere, I've recorded other videos on why Cohere is really good, cost effective large language model, because there's definitely benefits to it. And then I'm leaving out a ton of them too, but there's Mistral and all the other open source. So I would just say, don't leave out open source models, just for the sake of ease, because you can definitely save a lot of money and doing the same request for things like that when you have the HTTP API and use Llama 3, for example. So with that, this video is just over 10 minutes. If you like this channel, like this video, please like it, subscribe. That would really help. I'm going to continue to push content just like this to help you, really stretch the limits on productivity and AI and automation. And really appreciate you watching. Thanks again.